Yeah, well, there's some things that Kalamazoo does that we thought we could take advantage of, and that's why our shot totals were a lot higher tonight than in regular games. Again, it's kind of what I alluded to last night. Like every team kind of gives you something, and then you gotta execute on that something.
With the number of defensemen, as far as with Ortiz and Cooper coming from the AHL, and the lack of numbers with the forwards, did that change the offensive strategy or the way you filtered pucks down to the net?
No, it probably had more to do with the line combos, and especially as the game went on, I moved Lee up with Denny and Otter. I thought they might be able to give us something a little bit more, and you try and Solo has given us so many great minutes. He's a D playing forward, but he's long and he's got a good stick and he skates well, and so I played him at center, but he was really losing a lot of draws, and then so we tried to move him to the wing because then he gives us that size, and so I thought he did a good job with that, and so you just again throughout the game you're trying to manage momentum, and again you're just trying to put your players in the best possible position to be successful.
Tonight, Aiden McDonald had 9 shots, had
Yeah.
2 goals, could have had a third one a couple times. Could you speak a lot about his performance tonight?
Yeah, listen, I got a good relationship with Mac. I coached him in Greenville when I was the assistant there. I recruited him to Greenville. I know his former coach at Brock University, Marty Williamson, who I have a phenomenal relationship with. He's a huge mentor of mine. So there's that familiarity. You know exactly what you're going to get with Aiden McDonald. He's a big man. He can move well. He's got a good stick. He's got like a real nose for the net. And, he's just, and he's a goal scorer. And those goal scorers, they can score in bunches.
Last question, not about the game, but about Kyle Jackson named to the ECHL All-Star team
Yeah.
today. Do you have any comment about that?
Yeah, Jacko's the best, man. He's still leads our team in points. Hasn't been here for a while. He really came in with a great attitude. He came in good shape, bought into the structure and the culture, and I'm really happy for him to be named as an All-Star. I'm also really happy for him to be called up to the American League for as long as he has, and giving them valuable minutes. It's something that we take a lot of pride in as an organization.
Thank you. So what kind of adjustment did you see from the first 40 minutes to those final 20?
It's funny. Hockey's a funny game. It's a game of momentum. We got up 3-1. We weren't able to get that fourth. They claw back. They make it 3-3. We make the goalie change, and then a lot of times that goalie change will spark something in your players. And I thought, if anything, it motivated them, and they started to really like push it on us. And I thought Drydes made some real big saves down the stretch, and that third period when you're up for by a goal, and you try and tell your guys, we're not going to sit back, we're not going to play tight. It's just human nature, right? What's at stake. The guys work so hard for 45 and 50 minutes, and they want to close out a game, and we want numbers above, and so they start coming at you, and when that happens, you kind of find yourself back on your heels, and you're giving up more shots than you'd like, but you're trying to just protect the inner ice, which what I was referring to earlier. Again, it's a game of momentum, and it's just a game of circumstance.
What kind of impact does Hubbard bring to this lineup, being a newer addition?
Hubbs he's a real good player for us. He's a good skater. He's got a good stick. He creates scoring chances, and he's just someone when we identified Dan and I that thought we could fit into our lineup and give us valuable minutes, and that's exactly what he's doing.
How's it feel to be back home?
It feels great. Again, it's coming off a real tough road trip, a lot of late nights, sleeper bus, a lot of games against some really good teams. It's just nice to be at home. It's nice to be at home with your family and familiar surroundings, and you just get into a groove, and we're lucky here. We only got one more game this weekend, and then we'll go on the road next weekend, but it's nothing to like what we just endured.
It sounds like the agreement with the CBA is somewhat solidified at this point. Is there anything that you want to say about that, or about how having that resolved is affecting the locker room?
Well, I can say, having that resolved is great. It was a cloud just hanging over the season, right? Both for the players, both for the ownership, and there was a little bit of friction that goes with that. But I thought both sides handled it like extremely well, extremely professional, and to have it behind us now, it's almost like it didn't happen. That's human nature. You just kind of you forget and you move forward, and you look forward to what's going to happen next. So, but it's definitely lifted sort of that veil or whatever.
Final question, Coach. With the departure of Brett Budgell, do you anticipate bringing any new faces in, or will that be replaced with someone coming off the injured reserve?
Yeah, well, we're hoping here Matt's is about day to day. He's getting closer every day, and Matt's doing a great job with him. You don't replace Brett Budgell, okay? You just don't replace Brett Budgell right now. But Dan and I are being conscientious, and we're being thorough, and we're evaluating what options we will have out there. We don't necessarily want to be reactionary. We want to be thorough in the evaluation. And we're not going to replace Brett Budgell with one player, but can we replace him with one or two players? I think that's more likely than not.